Picture this. It's a clear morning in the South Island. Birds are loud, a kettle clicks off. Then, without warning, the room groans. Glass rattles, cupboards slam like someone's pounding every door at once. Power snaps out, your phone lights up, but the signal is gone. Across the Southern Alps, the ground has just torn open along the Alpine Fault, and New Zealand's next big week has begun. Here's what scientists have been planning for. A very large Alpine Fault earthquake, around magnitude 8, starting in Southwestland and ripping north along the mountains in seconds. It won't feel like the sharp jolt many people remember from smaller quakes. This is a long, rolling, exhausting shake. In some places, it could last minutes. On the west coast and the southern lakes, it may be violent enough to throw you off your feet. Elsewhere, it will still be strong enough to dump things off shelves and crack old plaster. And while the shaking is the headline, the real story is what happens after. Roads, bridges, power, fuel, food, and communications. That's what this video breaks down. What an AF8 event would likely do to every NZ region and what your role would be in the first week. First, a simple picture. Think of New Zealand as a house divided by a long load-bearing wall, the Alpine Fault. When that wall fails, the rooms closest to it suffer the worst structural damage and mess. The rooms further away are still shaken, but their biggest problem is that the hallway is blocked. The paths between rooms are damaged, so nothing gets where it needs to go. In the AF8 scenario, the West Coast and the Southern Alps are those closest rooms. The rest of the South Island, and then the North Island, are the rooms trying to move supplies through blocked hallways. Let's walk the map, south to north, west to east, with plain language and real-world implications. On the West Coast, Buller, Grey, and Westland expect the strongest shaking and the greatest number of landslides. Slopes that look harmless on a sunny day can peel away when shaken hard. State Highway 6 along the coast, State Highway 73 through Arthur's Pass, and State Highway 7 through Lewis Pass are all vulnerable to slips and bridge damage. It won't just be one big slip, it will be hundreds of medium ones and dozens of major ones, plus bridge approaches that have slumped, plus rockfall that keeps coming down after the main shock. Some towns could be physically isolated for days to weeks. Lifeline utilities, power, water, wastewater, and telecoms will take hits. Even if a substation survives, the lines feeding it might not. Even if a cell tower stands, its backhaul fiber could be cut. That means patchy power, patchy coverage, and a lot of local ingenuity. Airfields and ports may operate, but under constraints and weather limits. If you live here, the plan is simple but tough. You and your neighbors are the first responders. Expect to rely on what you already have on hand for several days. Shift south and east into Southland. The shaking intensity drops with distance from the fault, but Western Southland and Fordland-linked routes feel it most. Think about Teanau and the lifeline to Milford Sound via SH94. Rockfall and road closures there are very likely. Southland's flat farmlands and towns could see power and communications interruptions and some building damage, especially in older or poorly braced stock. The critical issue is movement. Can repair crews and fuel reach where they need to go, and can stock and freight move? In the first few days, local radio and community hubs become the heartbeat. Notice boards, PowerPoints from generators, and paper and pen coordination. Now to Otago, especially the Queenstown Lakes and Central Otago districts. Strong shaking plus steep terrain equals landslides and rockfall on alpine roads and tracks. Tourist towns have extra challenges. Many visitors don't know the local hazards, don't carry supplies, and may crowd petrol stations and supermarkets right when trucks can't get through. Lakes in this region deserve a special note. Long, deep lakes can slosh, ceases after strong shaking, especially if a landslide hits the water. The exact behavior depends on each lake's shape and the landslide's size and location, so local councils publish specific guidance. If you're near a lake and the shaking is strong, step back from the shore, keep off jetties, and stay alert for unusual waves and drawdowns. Meanwhile, alpine routes into and out of Otago, Haast Pass, the Crown Range, the Lindis, are all candidates for closures. Air bridges, fixed wing and helicopters will matter. Community halls and schools will become information hubs. If you live here, your 7-day kit isn't a theoretical thing. It's how you avoid long queues and keep calm while crews clear routes. Canterbury sits east of the divide. Many places will experience strong but not extreme shaking. However, Canterbury's biggest vulnerability in AF8 isn't a direct fault break under Christchurch. It's the mountain corridors that tie Canterbury to the west coast and to Nelson, Tasman. Arthur's Pass and Lewis Pass are fragile arteries. If they're closed for a while, and they may be, the flow of freight, fuel, and some food routes get disrupted. That drives two priorities. First, local lifelines, substations, water pump stations, hospitals, need backup and protection. Second, logistics hubs around Christchurch become pivots for receiving and redistributing supplies as alternate routes open. Expect safety inspections of bridges, older commercial buildings, and unreinforced masonry. Some suburbs may lose power or water for periods if critical assets are affected. Plan for that now, not in the dark. Moving northwest to Nelson, Tasman, the shaking may be moderate to strong in spots, but the big story is choke points. If southern approaches are closed, Nelson and Tasman can be cut off from the rest of the South Island by road. Ports here could be very busy receiving coastal shipping and moving goods onward, but that requires working wharves, cranes, labor, and safe road connections inland. Even if your house has little damage, you'll feel the aftershocks in the supermarket aisle, at the petrol station, and in the courier backlog. If you run a small business, your continuity plan, backup communications, manual payment options, and a way to reach staff matters. Marlborough has a similar dual reality. Shaking is moderate to strong in parts, but the inter-island link is its superpower and potential pain point. Road and rail to Picton need to be checked. If those links are damaged, ferries cannot load rail, or timetables tighten, then freight that normally flows between islands slows down. That ripple is felt immediately in the lower North Island and throughout the South Island. Coastal shipping and alternative ports can help, but they don't spin up instantly. If you live in Blenheim or Picton, your role may be less about personal damage and more about supporting logistics, volunteering, checking on older neighbors, and keeping roads clear for priority vehicles. Crossing to the lower North Island, including Wellington, Kapiti, and the Wairarapa, the shaking could be light to moderate for many, stronger in some locations depending on local soil. Wellington's unique challenge isn't just its own hills and reclaimed land, it's that the capital is the narrow neck between islands. If inter-island ferries are constrained and South Island freight shifts to coastal shipping or air freight, Wellington's ports, roads, and rail lines are suddenly a critical junction, while also needing inspections and repairs. Supermarkets may ration. Fuel deliveries may be prioritized for emergency and lifeline services. Public messaging will ask you to reduce non-essential travel to keep corridors clear. That's not theater, it genuinely speeds the overall response. Manawatu, Wanganui, and Taranaki will likely feel light to moderate shaking in most areas. But you will feel the pressure on your roads and bridges as freight reroutes. The central North Island highways and rail become overflow pipes. Bridge inspections, temporary weight limits, and detours are all on the table. Civil defense in these regions will coordinate with national logistics to stage supplies southward. If you run heavy vehicles or freight, expect dynamic restrictions. If you're a resident, your best contribution is the basics. Be self-sufficient, keep vehicles above half a tank, and check on neighbors. Farther east in Hawke's Bay and Tairawiti Gisborne, shaking could be light. Your ports, however, become valuable relief valves. Container yards, drivers, and cranes may be asked to do more for longer hours to help move goods when other ports or rail links are constrained. Weather always matters on the East Coast. Heavy rain on top of earthquake-weakened slopes can trigger secondary slips. Councils will keep a close eye on that. Keep your storm kit topped up and stay flexible. In the Bay of Plenty and Waikato, the main quake may barely rattle you. But Tauranga and Auckland's ports and Waikato's energy infrastructure become national lifelines. Warehouses, distribution centers, milk and meat processing plants, and fuel terminals will all be part of a coordinated pivot to push essential goods south. The electricity grid will be balancing load and risk, and field crews may be redeployed to the South Island. That can mean longer wait times for routine faults at home. Be patient. This is a whole-of-country week. Auckland, you'll likely experience light shaking at most. Your role is massive. The country will look to you for warehousing, flights, medical support, engineering expertise, and volunteers. National carriers and the Defense Force will be staging people and cargo south. If you manage supply chains, think now about surge capacity, manual workarounds, and staff rosters. If you're a resident, the same simple rules apply. Keep a week of essentials at home, have a grab bag in your car, know how to contact family if phones are down and the internet is patchy. In Northland, even lighter shaking is likely, but your coastal fuel terminals and roads matter if freight is rerouted north before heading south again. Keep diesel tanks in tractors and generators prudently topped. Expect temporary pressure on key routes if logistics pivot through you. So what are the cascading effects and realistic timelines? In the mountains, slips aren't cleared once and done. Aftershocks can bring down freshly loosened rock day after day. Some alpine corridors could face closures measured in weeks, with single-lane convoy windows and escorted passages long before normal traffic resumes. Bridges may need careful inspection, temporary strengthening, or outright replacement. Power networks will do triage, restore the greatest good feeders first, then work down to local faults. Telecommunications will roll out temporary cell sites and satellite links where possible, but backhaul takes time to re-establish. Water networks vary by town. Some will be fine, others will need boil water notices or tanker deliveries. None of that is a reason for fear. It's a reason for ready. Here's your personal game plan, no matter where you live in New Zealand. Aim for 7 days of self-sufficiency. Water first, 3 liters per person per day for drinking, plus extra for cooking and hygiene. Store it now. Food next, shelf-stable, easy to eat without power, tinned beans, tuna, fruit, pasta, rice, long-life milk, baby formula if you need it, and pet food. At least a week of essential prescriptions and a basic first aid kit. Light and power, torches with spare batteries, a headlamp, a power bank for phones, and if you can, a small camping stove with fuel used safely outside. Think about sanitation, heavy-duty rubbish bags, wet wipes, hand sanitizer, and a plan for the toilet if water is off. Comms, a battery-powered or wind-up radio to hear official updates if mobile networks are down. Records, scan important documents to the cloud and keep a physical list of phone numbers because you won't remember them under stress if your phone is flat. Finally, community. Write down who on your street might need help and who has useful gear. A chainsaw, a generator, nursing skills, a 4-wheel drive. After a major quake, community beats chaos every time. If you're a business owner, add 3 things. Cash handling if FTPOS is down, manual processes for orders and stock, and a staff check-in plan that works without smartphones. If you store fuel or hazardous goods, secure them properly now. If you run chillers or freezers, test your backup power and calculate safe hold times. Staff will have their own families to care for. Write humane rosters and be clear about expectations ahead of time. Tourists and short-stay visitors, you are part of the plan too. When you're in the South Island, especially near the Alps, carry some water, snacks, warm layers, and a power bank when you go out for the day. Download offline maps for the area. If a big quake hits, don't rush for the car until you've checked for hazards. Stay away from cliffs and riverbanks. If you're by a big lake and the shaking is strong, step back from the water in case of unusual waves. Follow local instructions. Help if you can. Let's zoom back out. Every region plays a role. The West Coast and Southern Lakes will carry the heaviest direct damage and isolation. Canterbury and Nelson Tasman will wrestle with corridor closures and distribution pivots. Marlborough and Wellington become the neck of the hourglass for inter-island movement. The Central and Eastern North Island take on rerouted freight and inspections. Tauranga and Auckland anchor national logistics, health support, and air and sea links. Northland and other coastal hubs backstop fuel and coastal shipping. It's a network. When one part is damaged, the rest of the network shifts to carry the load. If this all sounds daunting, remember, AF8 is a scenario, not a date on a calendar. It's a serious, evidence-based rehearsal, so that when the ground shakes, people don't panic, they perform. Crews know their sectors, councils know their priorities, businesses know their workarounds, and families, your family, knows where the torch is, where the water is, and where to meet if you're not together when it happens. So here's your quick checklist for tonight. 1. Store water. 2. Make a simple 7-day kit or add to the one you have. 3. Secure tall furniture and hot water cylinders. They do a lot of damage when they fall. 4. Decide a meeting point and an out-of-town contact. 5. Bookmark your local civil defense page and download emergency apps. 6. If you're in a lake or alpine area, check your council's guidance for lakeshore safety after strong quakes. 7. Talk to your neighbors, swap phone numbers, and agree to check on each other. If you found this breakdown practical, share it with someone you care about in New Zealand. Prepared communities recover faster, and this video might be the nudge a household needs to get ready. If you're new here, subscribe for more clear, no-drama guides to NZ hazards and everyday resilience. Like the video if it helped, and drop a comment with what's already in your kit or what you're adding tonight. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay calm, and I'll see you in the next one.